Guys, welcome in. Welcome to episode 3 of Comics, Cards, and Brew. If you're just joining us, we're just getting started. I'm here with HEROINEBURGH.
Hello, from Pittsburgh to Florida.
Florida.
Our second favorite place.
Really? Florida's your second?
Sure. Yeah. We've got a lot of friends and fans in Florida now, and some of our influences come from there. I'll tell you about that.
Well, because I was like, I live here in Florida, and Florida's not my first or second favorite place. No, I'm just kidding. Florida is good.
Very supportive of comics down there for sure.
Well, I will say that we definitely do have a big. It hasn't been a big trend in the last 10 years. It's definitely been clicking up, which is awesome. I love that. And so, guys, once again, what I'm trying to do is spotlight the indie comic scene and how important that is to the growth of the comic industry. And I 100% firmly believe that if you are looking for the best stories, the most creativity, and the most emotional connection to characters, this is where you're going to find it. So I'm so happy that HEROINEBURGH came on today to join us, because I'll tell you what, this is the first time that I've really seen a story that has grown to encompass so many different platforms in the first, and this early in its, creation. So I have to ask you this and for them too, but where did this idea come from for you? Like what was how this brainchild start to develop?
Well, I can kind of tell you the origin story. I mean, obviously it goes back to, our youth and comics and TV shows, but the actual origin story was in 2016. I was interning in the summer at a place called Pittsburgh Filmmakers, which has since almost ceased to exist. Unfortunately, they kind of ran themselves into the ground, but they existed for a very long time. And they were one of these nonprofit organizations where you could come in and borrow film equipment and, take film classes. And if you were a member, right? Pittsburgh Filmmakers. And so I was working the equipment office in the summer. I was just interning there, and as a result of my interning there for like 60 hours, I got a free membership for a year, right? So while I'm behind the desk, whistling Dixie or whatever I'm doing, and I'm thinking about various things, and I just got back into indie comics in a big way a couple years before. I bought a lot of new Image books, kind of the second Image explosion, with stuff like Saga or Sex Criminals or Wicked and the Divine, which none of those I really read anymore, but it was a big gateway back in, shall we say. Definitely. And I'm reading those books, and at that time the CW was starting to pop with all these new shows, and in Pittsburgh there was a play called Pittsburgh Batman, which a bunch of my friends put on together, which was kind of a version of the Batman mythos taking place in Pittsburgh. And so all of these things kind of made me think of creating my own universe. In addition, at the time, I was starting to be a big fan of a bunch of different live action superhero series, kind of DIY superhero series that were on YouTube or that were, downloadable. And so all of those things kind of gave me the impetus to start this world. And since a lot of these live action things I was watching were specifically about superheroines, that kind of came out as a lifelong interest just in kind of the powerful ladies. And so, I conceived of it behind the intern desk at the equipment office of Pittsburgh Filmmakers. And that's where we did our first entire episode. One day during the summer, on a Tuesday, I was like, can I have the entire third floor? And then we just, I had a script and 2 cameras from the equipment office, Panasonics at the time. Now I use all Canons. But we did the first episode with the origin of Sabrina and Regina, and just kind of went from there. And the Pittsburgh Batman thing actually came into play, that it was a very, very funny play, and it was popular in the music scene. It was a lot of music scene people putting it together as kind of a parody of Batman using Pittsburgh tropes, a lot of Yinzerisms. I don't know if you know what a Yinzer is, but that's a guy from Pittsburgh or a gal from Pittsburgh who has that specific accent and calls everybody Yins, which is plural for you. Yin's gonna go down there, giant eagle, downtown, right? It's a specific accent. So it was a Yinzer Batman, and there were things about it that were very appealing. And one of their promo videos was in a suburb called Mount Lebanon. And there's this hipster standing and smoking, and this girl comes up and tells him tells the hipster, stop, polluting with your cigarettes. And the hipster tells her to get lost. So she goes over to Pittsburgh Batman, who's eating a hoagie sandwich.
Oh my God.
And he's kind of a very ghetto looking Batman. He drives a beat up vehicle. And she says to him, that guy's polluting over there. He's littering. Can you take care of that? And Pittsburgh Batman tells her to fuck off because he's kind of, yeah. And then she just stalks away. And the thing I was like, there's all these characters, Pittsburgh Penguin, Youngstown Joker, that are in the series. And I was like, there was a missed opportunity because this girl should have come back as Mount Lebanon Poison Ivy.
Oh.
And then arrested the guy, or maybe strangled him in vines, right? And that was when I thought of my first HEROINEBURGH character. I thought of Gardenia, who was the kind of good version of Poison Ivy. And then I kind of built a lot of characters in that same manner. I assigned them different neighborhoods in Pittsburgh, different ethnicities, different professions, and different subcultures. Like, for example, heavy metal or goth or, computer coder, stuff like that. And I put each one together in kind of a composite as a character, and then flushed out the backstory, and then filmed 12 origin stories for about 15 characters. And then, of course, we had to introduce just as many villainesses as well, right?
Of course.
So the first couple years was the season 1, and that was all the origin stories of all of the good guys, the heroines. And by episode 13, which was the finale of episode 1, I had told the story of forming the Heroine League and how they all got together as kind of a Justice League of Pittsburgh, located at the top of the Cathedral of Learning, which is an actual building at the University of Pittsburgh. And we started just filming all over the city, making these episodes. And now season 2 is kind of more like a CW show. It has multiple plot arcs going at once, right? And you have good guys, you have the Heroine League, and you have bad guys like the Black Faction is the major evil cabal run by a corrupt Pittsburgh cop, Detective Drake, and his wife Vaporia, who's one of the villainesses. So we're in the middle of season 2, and all of these complicated story arcs are happening. And we're building towards another climax and finale, probably in early 2022, when season 2 will finish. So far we have filmed. I'm sorry if I'm just talking impromptu here. So far we have filmed,
you're good.
Yeah, we filmed 19 episodes, including a double part episode 18. We're about to release our 20th, which is episode 19, in late April. And last year I started turning them into comic books, and the comic book heroines look exactly like the ones on the screen. So we are literally these ladies, by the way, they're actors. Most of them are amateur. There's a couple that are semi-pro and have been in other productions, or even a couple have been on TV shows, actually, which is nice. But in any case, we started drawing them from the music scene, and then we got people from the theater scene, comedy, improv, burlesque, belly dance, cosplay world. And so we have about 30 female characters, both good and bad, and then another 60 or 70 henchmen and boyfriends and all that kind of stuff. So
Man.
Again, 20 episodes. The 20th is about to come out, and 2 comic books so far. I will slow down and let you ask more questions now.
No, by all means, dude. All the information you're giving is vital. It's huge. I had, I said, I had
the names too. So,
big. I had no idea how in depth this universe was and how developed it already was until after you and I have been communicating. And guys, when you want to talk, you guys know, all of you who are here from Comics, Cards, and Brew, you know how much we've talked about things and how I'm very story driven, very character driven. And let me just show you the cover of the first one so you can see what these bad boys look like. Okay. So these are phenomenal covers, guys. Look at that artwork.
Yes. Those covers were drawn, the covers, and also all of the character stickers that come inside the covers, because each comic book comes with a sticker. There's 8 different stickers. That's sticker number 4, I think. Heroine sticker number 4. All of those are made by Jason Wright, who is a very frequent and successful freelancer for DC Comics. His most recent title was Metal Men. He colored all 12 issues. And before that, he did a whole bunch of one-off things. And then 2 years ago, he was on Green Lantern for a couple years. So, and before that, he did Secret Six and Batgirl and Detective and a whole bunch of other stuff.
So his like you told me earlier, his credentials are out there, guys.
Over 650 individual comic credits. Yeah.
Which is,
and he's from Pittsburgh.
Oh, and that's insane. And then I want to hone in on that for a minute too. I love how you've created this universe that is 100%. It's local. It's relatable. People
100% local. I
love it.
So here we go. So all the actors and actresses are local, right? We have about 7 or 8 different artists. We have Jason on the cover. We have Ben and Wayne on the interior. And then we have Marcel, Anne, and Howard on the pinups. So that's about 7 or 8 people, all local artists. Ben is does half of the interiors. Wayne, who is also drawing for a comic book called Like Father, Like Daughter, which is from New York, written by Kat Kalamia of the Comic Uno YouTube channel. Wayne's interior is the second half of that book. We also, on the back, you can see, that's Wayne Brown. Yeah, he has more of a little bit more of a cartoonish style, but his female characters look great. On the back there, you have Marcel, Ben, Anne, and Howard Bender, who is from the 80s. He's a guy who did a lot of work for DC in the 80s. He did Dilates for Hero, which I read as a kid. He did Superman. He did Ghostbusters, and he's still a very active artist here in Pittsburgh. He does a lot of caricature work now. So, those are all the artists, all in Pittsburgh. And then, of course, our camera people are from Pittsburgh. Our costume makers are from Pittsburgh. And our printer, I have to give a shout out to Pittsburgh Print Ship and Josh, the owner, who prints all of our stuff. He prints all our stickers, all our promo posters, and all our comics.
Well, since you mentioned it, and since you mentioned, I'm going to talk about it, guys. You know, I always talk about how when my shipments come in from Diamond, how often these books come in damaged. And I'll tell you what, these books are more well put together than 90% of the books I get from the big two and from other publishers. I mean, the covers, they're not going to get bent in the shipment. They are fantastic, put together, well thought. I mean, you can tell that a lot of thought and a lot of care has gone into putting these books together. And I, as a comic store owner, I love it. I love that.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Print Ship does a good job. The interiors are glossy, and the exteriors are cardstock, glossy cardstock.
Love it.
So they are kind of hard to damage. We just try to pack them as well as we can. And you got 12 from us, right?
I did. I'll say what. And here's the funny thing. None of them came in damaged, guys. So I do I have 12. I had to tell Heroinesburgh was gracious enough to give me. I have 5 signed copies, and yes, some of those will go for sale. But I will be keeping 1 set for myself because
that's good.
I'm a huge believer, and I want to be able to build up my independent collection and stuff.
Jason only lives, a 10-minute walk from me. So basically every 2 weeks. I mean, he's one of my best friends, and every 2 weeks I go over and we sit and talk about the state of the industry because he's has to think about how he's getting paid. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We have good movies, TV shows, and then we sit and sign the comics together. Like every other Friday or Saturday. So it's a way to catch up and keep updated. Also, of course, Marvin, I talk with him even more often. Marvin is our friend, and we have formed a little comic creator clique called COMICSCARDSANDBREWLC, which is we have some videos on our YouTube channel. The HEROINEBURGH YouTube channel features tons of clips, trailers, character intros, and stuff from the series. And then it also features a little series we started putting together called COMICSCARDSANDBREW, which interviews Pittsburgh creators and Pittsburgh comic shops. So
that's fantastic.
So we interviewed Marcel, we interviewed Wayne, and now we're interviewing some other creators. A guy named Grant Lankard who had a Kickstarter for a book called Beowulf. We just interviewed him, and so Marvin's part of our COMICSCARDSANDBREW, and we talk all the time and work together, and we share tables at conventions. And like I said, Marvin has a comic book called The Edge, which is in stores everywhere through Diamond,
including the
number 1 issue. Yeah. And Also, Mauricia, who plays Vendetta in our series, she puts out a comic book called Music Maker. She has 2 issues out so far. We share tables with her. And
awesome.
yeah, so and of course, I think when we do Three Rivers Con, which is going to be the first con in a year and a half in Pittsburgh in May. I know we've been waiting so long. We're probably going to have Wayne is going to sell Like Father, Like Daughter. Marcel is going to sell his book, which is called Chutzpah, Heroes of the Holocaust. Marcel does an amazing book. He's done 4 issues so far, and it's basically about heroes of the Holocaust. And it's sponsored by the Pittsburgh Holocaust Center. Amazing stuff. And what else? Grant will be there with Beowulf. So yeah, we'll have a whole crew, all kind of repping the Pittsburgh creative comics scene. A lot of people here doing amazing stuff, and the stores are really supportive as well. Yeah.
Well,
support your LCS.
That's just that to everything you're telling me. So one thing I want to get into, because I self-published my own books years ago when I was trying to make it in that realm. And what I'm hearing from you is the same thing I heard from Marvin, is you've got that passion and that drive that it takes to get something like this, have an idea, and to make it be as successful and engaging as what you've done. I mean, like I said, I've only read these first 2 issues, but I'll tell you what, I can't wait.
All there is so far.
Well, no, but the beautiful thing is, too, now I'm going to blame you because my wife and I have shows we watch. Now it's your fault that I have another show that I'm going to be binge watching to catch up on. I blame you for that, okay?
Okay.
I'm telling you, so, it's fantask. I love it.
So maybe we could segue to my childhood here. I don't know. You did ask me about all that, right? I don't know.
Yep.
So if you watch HEROINEBURGH, the live action episodes, that is, if you look at the comic, you should think of 80s comics like George Perez and John Byrne.
Yes.
I grew up reading George Perez's Teen Titans, Carmine Infantino, Dilates for Hero. I read X-Men, Dazzler, Elementals, Love and Rockets. I read a ninja book on First Comics called Whisper, which was about a female ninja. Followed it for like 30 issues. So stuff like that, I bought, and that was back when you had newsstands, right? So these were all available at the newsstand down from my house. I didn't have to go that far. And of course, at the same time, people think of today as being a golden age of superheroes, but there was a second golden age, the 70s, man.
Definitely.
I grew up on Batman 66, Wonder Woman 77, Shazam ISIS Hour, Buck Rogers, Star Wars. I bought Star Wars #1 the week it came out, right after seeing the movie. Electra Woman and Dyna Girl, Battlestar Galactica, the Red Sonja movie, Alien, all of that stuff.
Right.
And I really never stopped watching TV shows like that. So, I watched Buffy, I watched Xena, Black Scorpion, the Witchblade TV show, Painkiller Jane, Dark Angel, all of those things. There's a ton of really great shows that actually feature superheroines over the years. And so that kind of, all of that goes into influences in our live action series. And although, people have also compared us to Power Rangers, which I'm not a super big fan of, but there's the spandex and the camp is all there, right? It's campy. So,
hey, you know what? I was a Power Rangers fan as a kid, and I'll tell you what, Boom Studios has done great with it. So to be compared to anything like that, it's still good. It was a great action. We loved it growing up. I loved it.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, pre-Power Rangers, I remember watching a lot of Battle of the Planets. And yeah, I had a crush on Princess. I mean, right? So there you go.
I had a huge crush on the Pink Ranger too. Who didn't like Kimberly growing up? Come on.
Oh, Kimberly, sure, why not? Exactly.
Well, and I agree with you. I think people do tend to forget that there was a first golden age which was during the 70s and 80s, and now it's almost like it's because everyone thinks this is the first time there's been this big influx, but it's not. It really is. I'm glad you brought that up. It really is the second time.
It's a kind of a second age of multimedia. I mean, the Bronze Age, we exude Bronze Age energy and action. I would hope.
Well, I'll tell you because I'm a huge, that's my thing. I haven't been as into like the stuff, like, because when I was growing up, I was born in '88. So when I started reading comic books, I was stuck with all that 90s influx, all the 90s.
Oh, crap. Yeah. The thing is, I don't like to exclude any kind of influence. And, once I got back into comics, I kind of caught up on the period that I had missed, the first image explosion and all the bad girls stuff. And here was something interesting. The very comic shop that existed for almost 50 years that I bought Teen Titan, New Teen Titans from in 1980 as a youth. It closed 3 years ago. We were able to film part of our third episode in there. Isn't that amazing?
Oh my God. That is awesome.
The very month that closed, the owner somehow got a hold of a big 90s comic book and action figure collection. So I bought all of that from him, and I wound up getting all of this Lady Death and Vampirella and Cyberforce. And I had I had Lady Death and action figures from the Ultraverse and all this stuff. And, I read a lot of issues of Mantra, so I would say that we are equal parts good girl and bad girl.
But see, I like that.
Approach, yeah.
And I'm gonna bring up I brought this up with Marvin as well. I'm huge believer in push for storyline. Like I need good story. It just can't be enough to be just a rehash of things. And once again, everything you're telling me and everything I've seen from the episodes into the comic books is that people who live in Pittsburgh can 100% relate to it, just like Dresden from Jim Butcher, who they live in Chicago, and people love that. It's relatable. It takes place here, and you have enough things that ground it in our reality. But you also have, which I want to get into this right now too, you also have these superheroines and the villains too that have very unique names and very new and unique powers. I mean, like some of the stuff is ones that you never heard of or never would have thought to. And so I have to ask you that is like with these heroines and with all these different names and character names, they're not just, Superman or Aquaman. These are very unique, specific, original names. How did you guys come about doing that?
So it's me, and basically I'm very interested in mythology, history, language, music, art. I would call myself a polymath in many ways. So the naming, again, I put these characters together from a combination of, remember, it's Pittsburgh, but it's a fantastic version of it, right? Mm-hmm. So anybody can read this comic from anywhere in the world. And, it's just like it's happening in Gotham or Metropolis or even Dakota from the Milestone verse, right? But instead, it's a real place, right? And Pittsburgh is kind of a background character with all the locations and the references. But as far as the naming convention, remember, these characters are kind of built out from the ground up with aspects of neighborhood, ethnicity, profession, subculture, things like that. And so my naming convention, actually, you were asking about the names, right? You noticed Correct. They all end in A, right?
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to bring that up. I'm looking at what in the world?
So this is a little bit of a philosophy. Okay. We would consider ourselves, in terms of 70s and 80s influence, we would consider ourselves second wave feminist. Okay. Which is really a mainstream approach to equality. Right.
Yeah.
And so we want to emphasize the feminine, not eliminate it. Okay. And one of the ways to do that, besides, of course, how the ladies look and the costumes and what we talk about with them, when, believe me, every book and every episode automatically passes the Bechdel test, because it's women talking to each other about things, most of which are not men. So there it is. Just it by accident always passes it, right? But in any case, they end every superheroine ends in A. And why is that? Because we are doing basically a Latin, Greek, Indo-European naming convention, and if you want to call something female, you end it in A, right? Yep. That's it. It's that simple. And in fact, it's the same in Hebrew and Arabic as well. So in the Semitic languages, so it's That's kind awesome. Of we wanted to emphasize the feminine aspects of all of these powerful women. And the best way to do that is to give them this standardized naming convention so that you always know that they are a female, that they are a heroine, that they're a female superhero.
Man, I'll tell you what, I love it because, and guys, here's the good thing: when you buy the comic book, the very first page, when you first open it up, gives you a description on how this universe comes about and gives you a character list with a picture. And
the names are beautiful. I kind of really, I didn't want to call them Morlock or something like that. I wanted to give them like beautiful names that flow off the tongue like you're speaking Spanish or Latin, and just like they kind of flow and they sound beautiful when you say them. Spectrina, Arcana, you know,
Etheria, yep,
Etheria, Poderosa. You know, they're lovely. The names are lovely.
They're also, it's very, it's like I said, when I first opened this and started reading it, you had me hooked just from that opening page when I was reading about it. I'm like, man, this is definitely something I can get behind. And sure enough, 3 pages in, I'm hooked.
Well, thank you.
I mean, like, Xavier Hart says only see one person. Yes, that's because HEROINEBURGH keeps the mystery of it. You can't see who HEROINEBURGH is.
Yes,
it's a mystery. Somebody mentioned that. That's why
I like to have the art and the artists and all the actors speak for themselves rather than be in front of the project.
See, and now there's something else I want to touch on, because just from hearing you talk, and guys, like I said, this is the first time that we've talked, but through the emails you come across, and this is why I think the story is so relatable and it's so engaging, is you are a very humble person. You know, just from talking with you, you're giving credit where credit's due. You like, because you could very easily, you and I both know, we've seen this done in this industry numerous times, where you only see the writer up front or you only see the artist up front. You don't get to see all the people it took to make it a reality. And you are giving credit where credit is due, right and left. Like, you don't hesitate to do that. And so I 100% applaud you for that. And it comes across as real and honest, and I love it.
Yeah, no, even though I created it, it's like a massive, massive collaboration between, nearly 100 people in some ways. So yeah, I want to make sure everybody gets the credit. And, even when creating these characters, a lot of the women who play the parts actually got to contribute to the creation of their own personalities and stuff. And so when you're talking about the comic book characters, they're literally portrayals of the live action, right? So
yes,
we went the opposite way. Most things, you got a comic book that somebody desperately wants to make into a Netflix show, right? Often comics nowadays are just Netflix deals in disguise, right? We did it the opposite way. And so the comic book itself reflects the personality and the appearance and the energy of the women who play these parts. And I think that's really, beautiful.
No, it is, and it comes across, and it comes across as authentic. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that too. That where the indie scene and people like you are getting it right is that you're not out there just trying to rehash or redo another Superman, redo another Spider-Man, redo any of these things that have been done so much to where you get tired of it and you don't even want to pick it up. Kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Where with this, it comes across as authentic, it's real. And like you said, the names alone, you read the names, you're like, God, the thought that went into it to make this unique and to make it, like you said, beautiful naming is, I mean, it's, you can't read this book and not grasp how much passion you have for this and where your heart is at with this project. I mean, this is just, like I said, it's incredible. I can't wait to, those of you watching, I can't wait to be able to get you guys copies to you tomorrow. I'm doing a sale tomorrow. I'll have these books up for sale. I can't wait for you guys to get your hand on these copies.
And speaking of the indie scene, like I said, Florida plays a little bit of a role as well as Pittsburgh. Just speaking of stuff that kind of, kicked me off as I was getting back into comics around 2013 and also watching some of these other live action things. I watched 2 live action female superhero series produced in Florida. One was Night Vale Media, which was all the movies created by Bill Black, who created FemForce, the comic book.
That's right.
And often when I tell people, when I give people a shorthand version of HEROINEBURGH, I say it's FemForce, except in Pittsburgh instead of Orlando, right? And the other one was Sisterhood of Superheroines, which was an underground indie series created by George Perez, who lives also in Florida. And the third one was it only went for 1 season, but it was a YouTube series called Super Femmes, which was produced out of North Carolina. So those kind of inspired me. And then the stuff I've been reading in the past few years, like I said, after getting back into comics, I mostly read indies. One of my favorite books is Empowered. I like Noble Causes and Dynamo 5. I like Ultra. I like Invincible. I like Bomb Queen. I like FemForce. I like Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose. And those are all really well put together independent books of various stripes. a lot of them emphasize very powerful female superheroes. I mean, even like, for example, Adam Eve. If I think one of the best characters in the, in the 2000s is Adam Eve of Invincible, and
I agree.
I try to live up what I do. I admire all those people, Kirkman on down, and I try to live up to those kinds of creations by creating stuff that's, I hope, just as good as those,
Well, I'll tell you, I gobble up anything, especially indie wise now. Whenever a lot of my buyers will ask me, like pick a book, or what do you normally read? And as a kid, it was of course Superman. That was who I liked as a kid. But as I've gotten older, I've craved more story. And the only ones I read now is like you, is independence, because it's the only chance I know I'm going to get of getting something that's real, that's new, that's exciting, and that honestly hooks me and makes me want to grab the next issue. Because a lot of these other ones I don't have, and there's not enough. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. There's not enough goods, if you will, inside the comic. There's not enough that makes me want to just grab it. It's like, okay, I read it now. I don't really care what happens in the next issue.
Sure. So even outside of that, there's also the exploding crowdfunded scene, which kind of just has gone nuts since like 2015, 2016. We're backing all kind of books. I mean, I like all kinds of titles, but there's so many superheroine books from that genre as well. But I mentioned like Father Like Daughter, which did really good, but there's also like Peregrine, Ardana, Patriotica, Flying Sparks,
Yes.
Fire Bitch. There's a whole bunch of really good books that feature superheroines in the indie world too. And, we like to support those and live up to, make sure we're doing as well as those also. So
yeah, no, I agree. And I'll tell you one thing, from an ordering standpoint with me, it used to be that when I first got into the comic book world, I didn't really know how I should shape my ordering, or what should I order more of. And now if there's a number one, or there's a series from an indie, I'll always order it, because and I'll pitch it, and I'll sell it up. I'll talk about it, because it's easy for me to get behind something that I've read and that I know is good than to take, let's say, Amazing Spider-Man 45, which is really like Amazing Spider-Man.
Are you backing any retailer? Are you backing any retailer tiers yet for crowdfunding campaigns or anything like that? Because that's
Not
like
yet.
a whole.
So that's the first I've heard about that. Really,
That's like a whole new thing about. So all these crowdfunded books, like they get directly to their 110 or 200 backers or whatever. But then, like, they should also make efforts to respect the LCS and get in stores. That's what we do. So we don't crowdfund. We felt that we don't quite have enough of an online audience yet to automatically raise money through that mechanism. So instead, for these first two issues, what I've been doing is, they're on sale directly from our website, which is HEROINEBURGH.com, same place you can get the videos from. But we've been since COVID started and Diamond shut down for a while.
Yeah.
And then people were threatening to open new distros, and then those never happened yet. So, except for Lunar, of course. So we've been spending the last year and change calling up stores directly. So, various people, for example, various other comic creators give us some hints. So, for example, we have a friend in Northeast Ohio who gave us a list of 12 stores, and then 10 of them took the book. So if you call, say, I mean, there are maybe 1,500 to 2,000 stores in North America. So we haven't even cracked all of them. But if let's say we contacted 350 stores, 400 stores, and so far 125 of them have taken the book.
That's awesome.
Only a handful of them are actually online, such as yourselves. Most of them are brick and mortar. But, there are a handful that also do online stuff. I mean, and some that do both. Like, for example, Mile High in Denver sells both online and in person. Some other places do the same thing. So, we have good relationships with over 120 stores. Some are selling more than others. But, nonetheless, we're selling comics all over North America. And we even got into a store in New Zealand and one in Israel. And I'm trying to get into other places that would accept English books. Like I'd love to get into the Philippines because, oh my God, man. I am such a big fan of the Filipino comic scene from the 70s and 80s. It was so creative. And that's why, in fact, there's a whole second generation of Filipino artists now doing books for everybody because that scene was so big back then in the Bronze Age. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Darna, which is basically the Wonder Woman of the Philippines. You heard of Darna?
I've not actually.
Oh yeah, she had all kind of movies and TV shows and stuff. It was
Man.
that's a whole nother discussion. But the Stan Lee of the Philippines is a guy named Mars Ravello. He invented several very important characters, and then anyway, yeah, I would like to get this series all over the world, and we're making a really good start with what we've done so far. So.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I'm here I want to help you do the same thing. Like I said, I feel like if the comic industry is going to go the direction it needs to go, which is providing stories that the readers deserve and the readers want, then the indie scene is where it needs to go. And I'm not trying to diss. I know I don't talk bad about anybody, or any industry, or, publishers, retailers, anything. But Marvel and DC for the last, I'd say, about 20 to 23 years have just been rehashing older storylines. It's not new. It's not fresh. It's not even when they reboot something, it's like, okay, you're just doing another reboot with the same characters, and you're just throwing a new problem that's probably been done 30, 40 years ago. And when you have the indie scene, you get a brand new universe. And there's dozens to hundreds of them out there, and they're all different. And that's what I love about it. They're not all the same thing. Everyone you pick up is different. And I am fascinated with how much detail goes into these universes, like especially with like yours and with Marvin's. I was blown away with how big and how uncontainable those stories are. I mean, I'll tell you the same thing I told Marvin. You don't have a ceiling on this. Like, it's not like you can say, okay, I'm going to do 20 issues, and then I think I need to wrap it up. Like, there's no doing 28. Like, I could see this thing going on and on, having you hit your landmark 100th issue down the road.
I'd be more than happy to do this for another 10 years if everybody is cool with it. And we might have to rotate some actors out by then. But as far as artists goes, I mean, I'd be more than happy to do this for quite a while. I'm not looking for mainstream success. I mean, it would be amazing, of course, if, we rose to the level of The Boys, Invincible, or Jupiter's Legacy, and it's really nice to see indie universes becoming full-fledged TV shows and getting, but again, we're already producing our own low-budget TV show. So, if somebody wanted to kick it to a higher budget, we could do that. Or we could, sign up with a nascent or a new streaming service that did lower budget stuff. There may be a prospect for that coming in the next year. We'll have to see. There's not much more to say about that right now, but
I get it.
I can continue this for quite a long time. I mean, in the same way that I've been in the music scene for a very long time, and I can be in the comic scene for just as long. And there's no limit. There's no end to it per se. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So somebody actually did message me a question. I see that we're at the 48-minute mark. So they must not have been able to stay in, but I got a message from one of our people.
Let's
answer. The question is, so here's the question. It says, with writing this, have you written an ending, or are you letting the story kind of write itself?
I would say the second. I'm letting the story unfold. The only thing that I have is definite finales for each season.
Okay.
And you asked, one of your questions to me was, how often do these things come out? So initially the episodes were coming out more often, but since they're now more complicated because they have 4 or 5 story arcs, we do one episode every 4 months and then one comic book every 6 months. Now, sometimes that means they alternate in release, but sometimes they come out at the same time. Like, in December, for example, we had issue number 2 come out at the same time as episode 17, right? But that's sometimes they alternate. And the thing is, the comic books, what they do is they tell stories in and around the episodes. So we're always, and also another thing about the comic is that we can do stuff we can't do in the episodes. We can have 2 of our heroines fight a full-size kaiju monster, right? Yes. We can have flying destructive robots come out of the steel building. I'm thinking of Inspector Gadget type hijinks, right? And we can't do that. Inspector Gadget was filmed in Pittsburgh, by the way.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And there's stuff that we can't do in the live action because of the budget limitations. Although we do have special effects, we have our own CGI. But so we'll try to do those things in comics. I have a story coming up for issue 3 where one of the villainesses hypnotizes a whole basketball stadium full of people and turns them into her personal drones. And, you know, we couldn't necessarily, I'm not Cecil B. DeMille, and this isn't the 10 Commandments. So I can't hire a cast of thousands, but we can draw them in the comic, right?
Well, see, and what you're saying is
comics are movies that can't necessarily always be done on screen.
Yeah, no, it's true, but that's the beauty of you having this multi-platform story, is that there are certain things like, oh man, this would be fantastic, let's go here. But you say, oh, you know, it wouldn't really work with the live action show. Let's use this one in the comic. It's great that you can do that. You can pivot and use it whichever way best fits the story. And I think that's awesome.
Right. That's right. And so we have other ways to stretch the IP. For a limited time last year, for 6 months until COVID hit and this newspaper folded, we had a comic strip in a local newspaper. And both Wayne and Ben were making strips. And so in issue 2, I don't know if you've looked all the way through issue 2, but we reprint 6 months worth of comic strips in the back. And that even adds to the mythos as well, because you get to see more depth on many of the characters in the strips, in short vignette stories. We also have a handful of kids from that's the strips, right?
Yep.
And we also have some kids in the southern suburbs of Pittsburgh working on a tabletop game. We're going to see if they come through. But they met with me, and Marvin was there too. They had some really good ideas on how to do like what do you call it, Warhammer, right? Like a Warhammer type game. And like a combat type game. So we'll see if that comes through. That would be so excellent to manufacture a HEROINEBURGH tabletop game. I'm just like, I'd love to like have that out maybe within a year. I guess we'll see if that works.
Well, I will say this, that the fact
like HeroClix or something like that.
Well, of course. And the fact that you are willing to entertain these things kind of segues into another question, another thing I want to talk to you about. And that is that, like, me as a writer, when I would get ready to do a book, you know, and you'll understand this because it's your baby too, is once you put it out there, it's out there, that there's no taking it back. So it's a big jump and a big leap to put your stuff out there, especially when it's something new, because you don't know what's going to happen when it comes out. You don't know what the reception is going to be. You have no idea. You have a thought process on what you hope is going to happen. Yeah. But in all reality, when you do it, you're like, here it is, let's go. And the fact that now here you are 1.5 years, 2 years later, and you've got someone approaching you to do a tabletop game for it. Yeah.
Well, it's actually, it's about 3.5 years in for the series, but yes.
I mean, you know what I could see too, and I'm saying this because we do cards as well. I could see somebody doing a trading card game for this with all the characters, collecting the character cards. I could easily see that too.
Well, I think that's something we may, if we ever do crowdfunding, we're going to have to throw in all the perks, right? We'll have to make, that's another thing. I forgot about this. We don't have any trading cards or keychains yet, or lunch boxes, which would be really fun. I know a lot of different crowdfund campaigns have stuff like that. So maybe we'll get to that. But we do have a friend named Dr. Pixel. She also lives in Pittsburgh. And I don't know if you're familiar with perler magnets that are 8-bit versions of characters that, you know, you make it. They're called perlers.
That's awesome.
So she made every single character. Actually, if you look on our YouTube channel, the one of the most recent videos is a little profile of all the perler magnets she made on one magnetic board. She's now selling them on her website. She's selling 7 or 8 HEROINEBURGH characters on her website. It's called Dr. Pixel, Pixel. So you can even go there and, you know, get one for your fridge.
That's awesome. I'm going to do, and that's the thing, that I'm going to do whatever I can to, because when I was writing self-publishing, and this is another thing that I want to bring into you as well, is like, when I was self-publishing and doing my books myself, I didn't have, you know, Random House or, you know, any of these big 6 publishers to promote me, to advertise me, to push my books. It's just you. It was just me doing it. And so the same thing with what you do. You're having to put on, like we talked with Marvin, multiple hats. I mean, you're having to write your own stuff, get behind it, promote it, advertise it, put your own capital up. And I think that with one thing is, when you have to do that, your drive for it and your work ethic is that much stronger and that much more real compared to when someone else does it for you. You don't really celebrate the success as much as somebody who's had to be behind every aspect of it, like you've had to do, to where when you've made these footsteps, like from one creator to another, let me tell you, what you are doing is incredible. I mean, it is outstanding that you guys are out there doing that you, people like Marvin, you guys are out there pushing your stuff and you're having success. I mean, it gets me excited. It's not even my baby, you know, it gets me pumped about it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
I love it. And I haven't had anybody else message a question. I feel like they're probably doing what I'm doing, which is listening to what you're saying, gobbling up all the information you're giving us is what I think's going on.
Yeah.
That could just be me. But I will open the floor. If anybody watching has any questions for Heroinesburgh, if you guys want to leave it in the chat, or you can message the page. Either way, if you guys want to send us in some stuff, I have my phone open so I can keep track of it and everything like that as well. Okay. Oh, here's one. I got a message.
Cool.
Here's one. So it says, when it comes to distributing your book, how did you get it distributed? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, well, I kind of described that, but here we go. Yeah, so we start out by going to the local stores around Western Pennsylvania, and then after that, we make it available outside Western Pennsylvania 2 ways. Anybody who wants to can go straight to our website, and I'll mention this as many times as possible, heroineburgh.com, HEROINEBURGH. Nothing is spelled like that in the whole world except us.
That's true.
Every single Google hit that you type that in, that will be us, right? So it'll be our, and it'll be our Twitter, our Facebook, our DeviantArt, our YouTube, and most of all, it'll be our website. So you go to the website, and if you want to download an episode, you just pay for it and download it. And if you want to buy a comic, you go to where it says comic book, and you click on number 1 or number 2 and order them both. We just sold a number 1 and number 2 yesterday on a live stream to a guy in San Gabriel, California. So, live streams work. That was on Death Milestone's Mindless Entertainment stream, where she interviewed 3 of our ladies in full costume, which was quite a sight. Yes, quite a sight. And so, yeah, we sell it that way online. But also, like I said, I've been calling comic book shops all over North America. And if you want to find one that sells our books and you want to go in person and support your LCS, as we call it, then just look at heroineburgh.com, go to the page that says comic stores, and we have that entire list. I would say we're probably in at least 26 different states by now. Big concentrations in Texas, Florida, Northeast Ohio, Western New York, New Jersey, I guess New York City a little bit too, and scattered among everywhere else as well. So, yeah, just look up your store.
That's awesome.
Call them up and ask them if they haven't, and if not, they can always contact us directly at info@heroineburgh.com, or send us an email at that address, info@heroineburgh.com, and let us know that we should be calling your store and marketing our book to them. We're not just sitting back once we send them the books. For stores that are brick and mortar right now, you got signed copies, right? That's the first way.
Yes.
We make sure people want it, because people like autographed books. But for brick and mortar stores, we also have, there you go, exactly, signed by me and Jason Wright. And then for brick and mortar stores, we also send 11x17 posters. And we also send, some stores I find don't want to have TVs in their store because it's a distraction. Some are very literary about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's others that love to play anime and movies, right? So we can send in the package our little specially personally embossed Heroineburgh thumb drives, which are 4 gigs, and they're enough to hold 3 episodes. So, awesome. At this point, not only can people download our episodes all over the world directly to their computer, but we kind of have a second network. We have a closed circuit TV network of about 20 stores that have the thumb drive. So you never know. You might walk in, you might see our thing playing on the television, say, hey, what's this thing that looks like Electra Woman and Dyna Girl? And then suddenly you're like, and then the guy behind the counter says, oh, it's this comic right here. So there it is. We created our own small scale comic shop TV network by doing that.
I love it.
It's fun.
I'll tell you this, and I told Marvin the same thing, and I wouldn't say this if I didn't believe it, if I didn't have an intuition with this. And I think that down the road, it's going to come to a point where I'm going to be like on my 50th episode, and I'm like, man, I got to get HEROINEBURGH back. And you're like, oh, listen, man, I can't. I'm too busy this week. I'll book you in like 2 months in advance, because this thing, the way it's growing, I don't see it slowing down. I don't see it stopping. All I see for this HEROINEBURGH, for this story, everything is massive growth, because you have something just like how Marvin does with The Edge. You've got something that we've been looking for the last 2.5 decades, and we've needed it. And once the word spreads and it starts growing the way you've done it through those multiple platforms and different avenues, I'm telling you, give it time. And I think this definitely has more than enough potential to be right up there with The Boys, all those other ones going on. And I will do whatever I can to help support it and get it to that point as well, because I would love to see that.
Maybe the TV show will be renamed The Girls.
Be like, you think you like The Boys? Wait till you see The Girls.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I would not be against renaming it if there was enough money involved, I guess.
And then if you do rename it, just have me do like a little voiceover. I want a little voiceover work in it. Okay, that's okay. All I request.
Yeah, we'll keep you definitely in mind.
Oh man, I can't believe it's already been an hour. The time has went by way faster than I thought it was. It was the same thing with Marvin. We just you and I were just hitting. We're going back and forth, and the time just flies by. It's crazy.
Oh, we love The Boys too. Stormfront, Starlight,
of course.
Yeah, yep. Good, strong characters, and like I really love the costumes in that show too.
Well, and that's the thing too. Everybody, if you and that I think that'll be one of the things I want to touch on too with in addition to the character names is the costumes, the uniqueness of that. It's not just let's mix Aquaman with Superman. Let's mix Wolverine with it's none of that. It's completely its own thing.
Actually, some of these are blends.
They are?
They are intentional blends. Now, if you look at our characters, you'll think more DC than Marvel, mostly because we're so colorful, right?
Yes.
And kind of primary color type stuff. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking of things that I saw in my youth or things that I saw on TV or read. So for example, Poderosa is kind of a combination of Lois Lane and Power Girl. Jania has a little bit of Supergirl meets Isis, and by Isis I mean Almighty Isis, right?
Yes. Yeah.
At one point, she was married to Black Adam. I really hope that Isis is gonna be in the Black Adam movie, but I don't know if they're gonna dare to attempt that, given the name these days.
Yeah, they've kept it pretty close to the chest with that. I'm not sure.
They had an Isis-like character in Legends of Tomorrow, but they topped out and they called it Zari. Yeah, and she was Persian, not Egyptian. Anyway. Yeah. So, and then, Savannah, like just looking at those four in my avatar, the girl Savannah with the leopard suit, she's kind of a cheetah, Catwoman.
I did just think of that. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. Even a little bit of a tribute to Eartha Kitt, Catwoman from the Batman series. And the fourth one, Vendetta, she has kind of a little bit of the backstory. She's Italian. She's a little bit of the backstory of the Huntress, but with fighting skills of Mockingbird. So maybe Huntress meets Mockingbird. So there was some thought made in the fact that we could do kind of hybridization of characters that we were fans of or that we were familiar with and still come out with original ideas. And, of course, the lovely naming system,
Oh, yeah, no. Then that's the thing. Like, you can tell that like you said, you've pulled from things, but you've made it your own thing. You've put your own touch on it. It's not just a rehash or a hodgepodge.
Yeah, these obviously didn't come out of nowhere. I was inspired. Like, for example, we have an Asian superhero named Ex Machina, and she is naturally a mechanical engineer. She's naturally works at Carnegie Mellon University, which is a very high-tech mecca. She has the powers of, there she is, building a gigantic robot to fight the kaiju monster, right? She has magnetic powers, so she's a little bit Magneto, but with a somewhat of a Kitty Pryde look to her, right? The costume.
Yes.
She's a little bit MacGyver because she can build and fix anything at super speed. Maybe a little bit of a technopath like Warlock, also, from New Mutants. And finally, the crowning touch was I was watching that TV show Scorpion from 4 or 5 years ago, and there is a character in there named Happy who also is an Asian character who loves to build and fix things. So I smushed all of those together, and I made Ex Machina, and then, gave her a job and gave her interests and a boyfriend. And, she also is the tech advisor for the Heroine League. So we gave her a lot of depth to her character and gave her stories. So that's just kind of an example of how, we pick and pull from various sources and kind of put together something new, which people can also relate to and have fun with.
I agree. Well, I'll tell you what, man, like I said, you've got me hooked. I know my viewer, I know there's gonna be more people that told me they couldn't come in live, but they're going to watch it later tonight and tomorrow. So I do want to say, guys, I will, during my sale tomorrow. Yeah. I do have multiple copies available, guys, that are signed that will be coming up tomorrow. Like I said, I'm keeping one for myself, but I am going to have different copies up available for that. And hopefully if you're down for it, Harrisburg, I'd love to have you come back for another episode, because I feel like we've just barely scratched the surface.
You don't know which sticker you're going to get. It's like this old cereal boxes with which mood ring are you going to get in there, right?
It's true.
There's 8 different stickers that's kind of random, so we kind of throw them in there. Yeah. Thanks so much for doing this, man. Should we are we moving towards the close?
Yes, sir. If that's I can't believe we've gone past the. I usually try to keep it to an hour, but like I said, if it goes past it, I don't mind. It's gone a little past it, but I'm good.
Cool. All right. If I mean, do you have any other questions, or should I wrap up by kind of reiterating our contacts?
Yeah, if I was gonna say, if you could please do the contacts, tell them where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah,
I'll
definitely.
also post a big thing on there as well. And one thing I want to do is, as we've been sitting here, I've come up with more stuff. So if you want to do an episode 2 or a part 2 of this, I would love to be willing to do another one, because I've got more stuff that's been coming to my mind since we've been sitting here.
Sure, all kinds of new questions. So yeah, to wrap things up, HEROINEBURGH has the full of social media, pretty much. So our website is heroineburgh.com, HEROINEBURGH.com. That's where you download the episodes and order the comic directly, and where you find the list of our shops. We have a Facebook just called HEROINEBURGH. We have a Twitter that's called HEROINEBURGH, but it's officially called HEROINEBURGH1. I can't remember why I did that. We have DeviantArt that's called HEROINEBURGH, and we post there a lot. And we have a YouTube channel, which is called HEROINEBURGH, that has, I don't know, nearly 200 clips from the series and all kinds of cool stuff. And yeah, that's where you can find us. If you want to email us directly for any reason at all, we always answer emails at info@heroineburgh.com. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, represent.
I love, for sure, man. Like I said, this has been a blast. I've had such a good time being able to hang out and chill with you. And I mean, and one thing to give you an idea that I'd love to talk more about too, and maybe we can do one between even me, you, and Marvin, is dive into more of the business side behind it, the stuff that the people don't really get to see, but yet they've been messaging, have questions on and stuff. I'd love to do something like that too, a technical side of it maybe.
Sure. Marvin has a lot to say about that. So do I. I mean, he's been working on his book for many years, and I really want to, congratulate him for being with Second Sight Publishing, and how he's getting that #1 issue out all over the place now. And it's getting a lot of really good acclaim and good sales too.
I love it. Like I said, I'm gonna keep pushing for both of you. Thank you so much for coming on here, HEROINEBURGH. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. And guys, thank you all for being here. If you're watching it live or if you're watching it later, we thank you for being here. Make sure you go out there and support all these indie writers and publishers, because I'm telling you, you want good stories, you want action, you want character depth, you want growth, you want to care, you want to have an emotional connection to it. This is the only way to go. So guys, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.